Some people are really fucking stupid. Did you ever notice that? How many really stupid people you run into during the day? God damn, there's a lot of stupid bastards walking around. Carry a little pad and pencil with you. You wind up with 30 or 40 names by the end of the day. Look at it this way. Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that. And it doesn't take you very long to spot one of them, does it? Take you about 8 seconds. You'll be listening to some guy. You say, this guy is fucking stupid. Then there are some people, they're not stupid, they're full of shit.
Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. What's going on, everybody? Oh, you got a little clip of George right there. It's like a flash frame. What's up, everybody? My name is Jay. Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, making the world a better place. And today, I have an epiphany. Yes, today is a day after a night of overthinking and, well, a night several weeks ago, because I needed to try to test it, put it into practice before I told you guys about this, because I feel like it's making me better and it could help make you better. And I need to know for sure. So what was the epiphany? Well, I have an embarrassing admission, a little bit of a, something that you don't want to admit to everybody, and you definitely want to admit on a first date, and you definitely want to admit to your parents that you've been doing, and you don't want to admit to your job. You don't want to admit to anybody, really. It's pretty terrible. I argue with people on the internet. Yep, that's right. And that is why I played the George Carlin clip. Because you see, George Carlin is really funny. Was really funny. George Carlin was the original king of comedy. George Carlin, maybe in the social media era, he would have been canceled. But if the same people had been around to spread his comedy the same way that you can on social media these days, George Carlin would be knighted. He would be a king. I don't know how far he would have gone. His star would have shined so incredibly bright. Even though it did shine bright, it would have been so much brighter. But he's wrong about stupid people. This isn't really epiphany, but it kind of led into it for me. So those of you that have watched or listened to this podcast, you know that this is not an advice podcast. This is not a mental health podcast. This is not I'm not a psychologist. This is a podcast about the things that I have tried to do to be better, the things that my guests have tried to do better, the things that that we collectively try to say, hey, this has made our lives better. This has made our situation better. So we're trying to pass it on to you guys, right? Because not everybody has the time for a betterment journey. Or sometimes people, it takes a while to realize you even have to go on one. So when you do, it's probably, a little bit better to have people along the ride that have been there before you. So the reason I say there are no stupid people, the reason why I say he's wrong is George Carlin, is because there are simply people that talk about things they know about, and then people that talk about things they don't know about, or they don't know very much about. I know a guy who knows everything about fishing, while I know nothing about fishing. Like, I know you use a rod, I know you use a net to get them into the boat if they're really big. I know what a reel is. I know several things, but I know the basics. But if you ask me, what is the best way to catch a marlin? First of all, I'm not even sure if you can catch marlin. But second of all, I wouldn't have an answer for you. And I wouldn't give you an answer. Okay? But my friend, he knows everything about fishing, but admittedly, his self-admission, he knows nothing about anything else. So if you were to talk about fishing, he would sound like the smartest person on the planet, IQ 187. But if you talked about politics or technology or, anything really, he would not have anything to contribute. The good thing is he knows that. So he's not the type of person to make himself seem stupid by talking about something he knows nothing about. Okay. So using that as the bearing, as the fundamental, what do we call it? We'll call this the baseline for the conversation. Okay. My epiphany came in the form of, when you spent an embarrassing amount of time interacting with people online, arguing with them, you come to realize why there's argument, why there's debate, and how it is that you get sucked into these unbelievably mind-numbing, completely divisive, never solution-based arguments. There are 4 ways of thinking on the internet, probably in real life too, but I'm going to apply this strictly to having conversations on the internet. There are 4 ways of thinking. The first way is scientific-based. Scientific-based thinkers, they look at the evidence pyramid. And if you've never seen the evidence pyramid, basically what it is it steps in a pyramid, layers on a pyramid till you get to the top. And each layer, as you go along, makes the information more, we'll call it trustworthy. At the bottom, it's trustworthy. At the top, it's the truth of truths based on everything we have access to in the scientific community. Then you have the faith-based argument. Now, I'm not talking about religion, even though religion can fall into this. There's religion. I've encountered people that have used faith-based arguments in comic book groups. I've encountered people that use faith-based arguments in crypto conversations, pretty much anything, okay? And I'll get to the examples in a second. And then you have the feeling person, the person that bases their entire worldview on their feeling. And then last but not least, drumroll please. That was terrible. I need to get a drum roll sound effect. I've been saying that. I need to get it. The last one is the conspiratorial thinker. And the conspiratorial thinker generally reverse engineers an idea, right? They look at an idea and they say, but wait, there's more. I know it. And they go and they find the holes in the story or the things that don't make sense, and they fill them with additional information. And then they have a conspiracy. So let me give you an example of the 4 using something that is very big in the news right now, and that is the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. So I don't want to get too political, as I've said. I did a previous episode about why I was disappointed with the left on this topic, but I'm not going to be you're not going to hear my opinions on the candidates or everything every second episode or something like that. I'll leave that to all the religious or all the religious, kind of all the political pundits out there. So let's break down the 4 based on that topic. So let's say the evidence-based, the scientific-based thinker. Okay, so the scientific-based thinker will say there is evidence that there was a shooter on the roof. We see video footage of that shooter. There is evidence that there was 8 shots fired. That there were 8 shots fired, not were. I'm supposed to be a writer. There is evidence that Donald Trump bled from his ear. There is evidence that others were hit because they were taken to the hospital, and they were 1 passed away sadly, and 2 were injured. There is evidence that the Secret Service, or the entities, the law enforcement entities around the Secret Service, were able to take out the gunman very quickly. There is evidence that the gunman was a Republican. There is evidence that the gunman was came from a Trump household based on the fact they had Trump signs in their yard. There is evidence that people who were there sprung into action to try to help those that were injured. That's evidence, okay? So we can see those things. It's empirical. We can see them. We can digest them. We can't dispute them. They are what they are, and that's all they can be. And then you would have your faith-based argument, okay? So your faith-based argument would point to a particular belief and use this incident to reinforce their belief. Okay, so I'm going to actually look this up quick because I just heard this before I came on. I was telling somebody about this whole topic of the podcast, and they told me about this thing that Megyn Kelly said. So Megyn Kelly had said that there was a piece of scripture that sure results with 6:11. There was a piece of scripture that said it's something 6:11. I'm not too sure which book it comes from. But you know what? I'm not gonna be able to find it, so I apologize, but you can look it up probably. I just don't want to take too much time looking things up. So her argument was that this particular scripture at 6:11, because he was shot at 6:11, this particular piece of scripture says something about strength and all that. And it kind of like reinforces that this was God's will. You know, there's a lot of faith-based people say the bullet was turned or just missed Donald Trump. Donald Trump turned his head because God turned his head for him. There are people who say that that Donald Trump is infinitely protected by God because he is a very religious man. Now, whatever you feel about that, whatever you see as evidence about that, the fact of the matter is that is how they are presenting their argument. Okay. Then you have the feeling-based person. So that's somebody who says it feels wrong. Everything that happened, it feels too wrapped up in a bow. You know, Trump had his fight moment, right? Trump looked pretty good from this whole situation. Now let's take away the fact that somebody died here. That is horrific. Nobody should ever die for any kind of political nonsense out there. Politics should be left to debate, not to violence. But saying that aside, because you would, you know, like with the evidence-based thing, you would say, well, there's evidence that somebody died, yes. But then you go to the faith-based, you say, well, if it was God's will for the bullet not to hit Trump, then why did it hit the other guy? Why did he die? Was that God's will? Right? And then for the feeling people, it feels wrong. Yeah, but you've got nothing to go off of that it feels wrong. Yes, Trump had his big moment and nobody expected him to act that well under you know, extreme stress, trauma. But it's a feeling, right? And it's not something they're trying to get you to take seriously. They're not trying to impose a viewpoint. They're simply trying to say there's something not right in the pit of my stomach. I feel like there's more to the story, but I'm going to wait and find out. Okay. So that's the third person. The fourth person is the conspiratorial person. So we saw this on both sides with this, the right and the left. The right said Joe Biden, last ditch attempt after a terrible debate, tried to have Trump off so that he could stay in power. Okay. Or the left said, it was definitely a shard of glass, or Trump had a squib, which is exploding blood on his ear they use in Hollywood. These are viewpoints that they came up with based on looking at what happened, reversing it, and saying, here are all the holes that can be filled. We're going to fill them. Okay. So here are the four ways of thinking: scientific, faith, feeling, and conspiracy. If you're looking for controversy here, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm not going to go off on one or the other. I am just going to say out of the gate, I am a scientific thinker. I believe in rational thought. I believe in looking at evidence wherever possible. And I believe in not forming an opinion until you have some sort of evidence. And it shouldn't enforce your worldview. And it should be able to move up the evidence pyramid. And if you guys haven't checked out the evidence pyramid, man, I got to do an episode on it because I talk about it a lot. But it is the only way to truth as far as I'm concerned. Now, the faith-based person might say the only way to truth is the Bible, if we're talking religion, or to the experts, if you're talking about crypto, or to Apple instead of Samsung, if you're talking technology, things like that, right? And a feelings-based person wouldn't really have that. They just have the gut of the feeling, the gut of their stomach. And the conspiracy-minded person would say the truth is in reading between the lines. Okay, so where's the epiphany, right? You're like, well, you've defined these people, and that's great, but where is the epiphany? I will give you the epiphany in a second. Dun, dun, dun. But first, here's the deal. I love these better moments. So I reach out to people that I want to hear from that I can't really lock down for like a whole hour interview. And I ask them, what is your better moment? A moment when you could have done better and you did. And how'd you do it? And there is an actor. His name is James Patrick Stuart. Okay. And I didn't delay because I forgot his name. I don't realize it for a second. I was like, it sounds like I forgot his name. I delay because he is that damn good. Like he is, as far as I'm concerned, look, he's on a soap opera named General Hospital, and he just kills it. His emotion in scenes is more emotional response than most people give in their lifetime in one scene. He is that this man can act. Okay. This man can, if you get a chance to check him out, please do, because he's incredible. He's absolutely incredible. And we got him for a better moment. And I'm so excited about it. I'm going to play it for you right now, and you're going to enjoy the hell out of it. And yeah, here we go.
Hi, Jay Hall, James Patrick Stuart. Thank you for contacting me. It's good to hear that you have a podcast going. That sounds like something you're using to make other people's lives better. And in the process, I would imagine your own. So good for you. Following a mission. You've asked me a question. When was I called upon to do better, and how did I go about it? Great question. First of all, not everybody wants to do better. So if you're that kind of person, you're already in a group that I'd want to be part of. Because being better requires humility, because otherwise you don't realize you need to do better, right? And humility is not something any of us run towards. My experience has been humility is a sort of a right-sized vision of ourselves and our place in our society and our surroundings in our world. And it's not always easy to do that. It's certainly not easy to be wrong. It's not easy to look at yourself and say, okay, this is something I need to improve. But I would say that my relationship with my father was in show business. He and I were estranged in the late 80s, early 90s. And through conversations with friends, it just occurred to me that I needed to approach him and make amends for my part in the street, clean up my side of the street. Doesn't mean I didn't have justified resentments. It just meant that I was willing to let go of them and be a better man. And I flew up to have dinner with him, and I apologized. And it was not something I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was carry my resentments to the grave. And what it did was it gave me my father back. And it gave my children a grandfather. And I'm glad that, he passed away 4 years ago. And I'm glad that was done. But it wasn't easy. I wanted to be right. And letting your father be right, especially when you're pissed, that was not easy. So many things that I've done in life to fix a situation, my own ego was trying to get in the way, and I would have missed it. I would have missed so many great opportunities by just succumbing to my ego. So I guess at the end of the day, it's humility and perhaps faith in a benevolent universe, faith in the love, in the good in other people, that they won't, observe my humility and my approaching them with a hat in a hand as weakness and use it to further weaken me and bruise me. Anyway, I could talk about this for days and days and days, but thank you, Jay, for such a thought-provoking question. Good luck with your podcast.
Okay, so that was James Patrick Stuart, actor extraordinaire. He is the man, okay? And if you get a chance to check out, actually, if you don't have time to check out the show, go on YouTube and look up Valentine Cassadine best scenes, okay? And I'm telling you, you're going to respect the hell out of this guy. He is a master of his craft. And to take a word from what he said to give you my epiphany, to present it to you, I'm going to take the word that he used, humility. Okay. So this epiphany required humility, because back in my 20s, I thought I was always right. Okay. I thought as long as I was coming from an evidence-based place, I was right. Nobody else could be right because I had the evidence on my side. But it required humility to know that that's not the case. Now, do I think it should be the case? Of course. I think evidence should always lead every conversation. But that's because I am a scientific-minded thinker. Here's epiphany. And this is going to save your mental health. If you're online and you find yourself arguing with a lot of people, which I've read some studies that say that the average internet user on X spends up to 4 hours a week arguing with somebody. And the average Facebook user, I think it was like 2.5, 3. And the average Reddit user, 12 hours a week gone out of your life arguing with people and not getting anywhere. And I'll tell you why. Here's where the epiphany comes in. This is why you're not going to get anywhere. Because a scientific-based thinker cannot convince the other 3 types of thinkers of their point, because the very vehicle for which the scientific thinker uses as a source of truth is immediately invalidated in the mind of the person who's thinking from feeling, from faith, belief, or from conspiracy. Okay? So what I'm trying to say to you is, you can't win an argument if you are one and you are talking to a member of the other. Now, what I try to do is I try to figure out who I'm dealing with right out of the gate, right? So if I post something on my Facebook or whatever, we'll use Threads as an example because my Threads has been pretty active lately. And I say, we do know that this about, now I'll jump to COVID, okay? Because I don't want to talk about Trump the entire time. So COVID, we do know that the vaccine, scientifically, the vaccine lessens death, worse outcome, and long COVID. Okay, it lessens all 3. It does not cure. Now, I think when it was said that it was cured by people like the President of the United States, Joe Biden, or others, what they were talking about was if enough people take the vaccine, you break the chain of hosts, and the virus is eradicated. Polio. Okay, there's not enough people without the vaccine for it to come raging back and kill us all. Thank God. So as a scientific-minded thinker, if I say new study just came out that shows, the vaccine, the COVID vaccine lessens long COVID by 62%, let's say. No, I'm not quoting a study. So don't rip me to shreds. I'm just using it as an example. A faith-based person who is already against the vaccine because of their faith says don't get the vaccine, they can't even see that evidence, right? So they might come back to me and say, I will pray for you that you will find his way. Pretty obvious it's a faith-based person. So my reply now, maybe not before, because, arguing, but my reply now would be, clearly we come at this from a different viewpoint. I wish you the best of luck. Peace. Now, if they continually come at me, I'm just blocking them. My block list is gigantic. Because why? Right? I don't want to waste my time with that. And they shouldn't waste their time, and you shouldn't waste your time. There's more life to live than just arguing with people on the internet. However, if somebody comes at me and says, I feel like a lot of people have died from the vaccine, I'll reply back with another study probably. And I'll say, well, I can understand why you think that, because a lot of people do, because there's a lot of nonsense on the internet. But here is the largest study with 4 million people and whatever the stats are, boom, right there. They come back and say, yeah, I read it, but I don't know, it doesn't feel right. I'll say, you know what? Obviously, we think of things in a very different way. I wish you best of luck. Peace. Now, if I post that same article and somebody says there are nanobots in the vaccine and they're going to explode inside of you whenever the government wants to kill you, that's a conspiratorial thought, and I just stop right there. I don't even respond. I don't do anything. I don't engage. I just let it go. You have no idea, guys. No idea how freeing this is. You see that laid back style that James had going in his better moment? He's got operatic music in the background. His hair is just, the way he wants it to be. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect, which I love, by the way, because I have a hat on right now because my hair is a disaster today. And he's just, he's calm. He's feeling good. You can feel like his energy is like, hey guys, what's up? I'm James. How you doing? He's kind of like he's just chilling. And I love that. I love that energy. I want to be chilling more. And this is helping me. So if you find yourself on the internet arguing with people, my best course of action that I've taken is to determine which form of thinker they are. And if they're a different thinker than you, walk away from the conversation. Because here's the thing. I'm sure I know there are bad people out there, but a lot of people aren't. They think of things differently as you. So if this is real life, let's say, you know what? I really don't want to get into it. Do you watch basketball? No? Do you watch hockey? Yeah? Okay, cool. What do you think of the latest trade or whatever, right? Did you think Florida should have won the Stanley Cup, or did you think the Oilers were going to do it, in 7? Get into more friendly topics, because there's common ground for most human beings. Now, there are people that are too far over on any of these ways of thinking, and you won't be able to relate to them, and that's okay too. You just say, you know what? We're not friends. Cool. Let's just part ways here, right? But here's the thing. What do you do if you encounter someone that's the same type of thinker as you? This is where arguments turn into one of my favorite things to do on earth. Debate. An actual debate. The rules of debate. Both are going to, if it's scientific thinking, present evidence. Both are going to present a rational way of thought. Both are going to try to come with the best information possible. And maybe, just maybe, both people might learn something. Or one person might say, whew, I didn't know that. Thank you. That is awesome. I love that. That's one of those things that just gets me going. It gets me up in the morning. I love it. If I know I'm going to have a debate, I used to be part of a debate club. I left for various reasons. But I used to love getting up there on stage and rapping about a subject, dropping evidence bombs and everything. Oh, it was so much fun. So if you are arguing on the internet, I'm going to put a bow on this because we're at over 30 minutes now. Please figure out what mindset that person has. And if it's not the same as you, move on. It will save you so much time, energy, headaches. And I'm going to tell you something. It is so easy when you start arguing on the internet habitually to become a negative person and to become a person people don't want to be around. To be that Linus, I think it was Linus in Charlie Brown that had the dark cloud over top of him all the time. Or maybe he's in a dark cloud. I digress. You may not see it, but I'm going to tell you right now, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, you can be better simply by cutting out arguing on the internet, because you will become a lighter, happier, more chilled James Patrick Stuart-like human being. And you will find that your life becomes better. The people around you are happier to have you there. So at the end of the day, I don't really often get along with conspiratorial thinking people when it comes to, these big topics. Feelings people, I can generally have pretty good conversations with. Faith-based people, it really depends on the topic. But at the end of the day, topic for topic, find out who you're talking to, find out what their mindset is, and figure out what to do from that mindset. But don't waste your time. Cut those 2.5, 4, 12 hours a week of arguing on the internet down to 0. And watch. I guarantee you, I swear to you, you will never, ever regret this decision. Okay? So that's how I've made myself better. That's how I'm continuing to work on it to make myself get to that 0 level of arguing on the internet. And I hope you guys can do it too if you're finding yourself arguing a lot, because, man, it's just not worth it. There's too much going on. There's too much awesome in the world. There's too much to do to be worried about these sorts of things. Okay, so that's it. That's all. That's the episode. That's the epiphany. We heard from an extraordinary actor, a little bit of actionable advice to make your life better. What else could you ask for on a Monday, right? If you're listening to this on a Monday, if you're listening to this any other day, what else could you ask for on insert day? If you like this, if you like what I'm talking about, if you like my voice, if you like my face, if you're watching this, if you like the topics, if you like the fact that James Patrick Stuart was on here dropping the mic, please subscribe, rate, share this with your friends. Anybody that you think is on a betterment journey or you think should be, share it. We got lots of topics. It's so much fun doing this podcast. I derive a lot of joy from this podcast because it's like personal therapy for me. I love having guests on the show. I love having better moments from extraordinary human beings who have excelled and done better in their chosen path in life. I love being able to talk to you guys about things that I've done to be better, or taking lessons from people that I've met and telling you about them. And I'm going to debut a new series soon. It is called Making Blank Better. Making whatever topic better. We're working on it right now, and very excited to present it to you guys. So watch out for that. And that's it. That is all. I appreciate everything that you guys do, even if it is just listening to an episode or two. All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks for checking out Better. If you got to the end, it must mean you liked the episode, right? So how about 5 stars, maybe a sub, maybe a share? Great universal comment points. And good luck on your better journey.